Hey guys, what is up? It's ArcadeCode here, and today I'm just going to do a very quick video on a guide to create a really good game. So, first of all, you want to get ready to create your game. So you need to learn how to program, otherwise you won't be able to make your game. And a few different languages might help, because depending on what you're gonna use to make your game. You want to equip yourself with the following. Oh, double clicking here. So you need a good PC. You need to be having a PC that's powerful enough to run your game. If you're gonna make a really good 3D game, but you have a really bad laptop, you're not gonna run the game, and you won't be able to test it. You need, well, what's really useful is a dual monitor setup. Especially if you're going to use Unity or something, you can have the code editor on one screen, and you can have the IDE on another screen. A notepad, so an actual physical one with a pen, so that you can note all your planning down, and grab a drink, a water bottle, Sprite, Coca, whatever you want. It's pretty good, as if you're gonna if you're gonna program for a long time and you don't have a drink, you might get thirsty, and then you'll get up, get a drink, come back, and then forget what you were coding. Make sure you have a drink. And I keep double clicking. So, planning stage. That's pretty important actually. You are not going to do any programming, you're not going to do any graphics, no sound, just pure planning. So first of all, what you need to make sure you know what you're going to do is find out what the game genre of your game is going to be. It's pretty important you establish this first, as it will affect the rest of your game. So this might include being an FPS or a third-person shooter. It can also be an RPG, strategy game, shoot 'em up, tycoon, racing or simulation. There are loads of them you can choose from. You can even make your new game genre. It's quite hard though to make your new one, because everything has been, or almost everything has been played around with. But you can always think of interesting ways to make your game fun. You also have to think of what I like to call the feel of the game. It has to be kept rather consistent, or your game will kind of feel awkward and out of place. You have to have a good idea of what your game feel is going to be at the start, or you might go into problems where you have one part of the game being completely different from the other. So this may include the settings, so it could be post-apocalyptic or fantasy, it can be medieval. You get the point. There's also the color scheme, so that's like, is it going to be dark, really, I don't know, really like light? Is it going to be, I don't know, is it going to be sort of black and white kind of zombie game? You can figure it out. And I like to call it the epic feel. So it's kind of when you play a game and you just think to yourself, this is so epic, for like an FPS, and you have like explosions everywhere, and like you survive, you kill loads of people. That's kind of the epic feel I'm talking about. You also have how immersive it is. So if you're gonna make a 3D RPG, you really want it to make really immersive, because you want the player to really feel as if he is the character. But if you're going to have a strategy game, you might not have as much immersion in the game, because that's not the kind of game you're trying to achieve. You also have the style of the game, so that is it going to be a 2D game, isometric game, is it going to be 3D, and also, is it going to be turn-based? So for example, you can make a strategy game. Is it going to be turn-based strategy, or for example chess, or are you going to have something like Age of Empires, where you have real time, etc. There are so many possibilities to video games these days. There's also the game mechanics. Now, once you decide all on that, you really want to think of what your game is actually going to be. For example, you can maybe the game is about a guy who can do telekinesis or something, or maybe it's just you just have to shoot flying birds, or is it going to be just a straightforward FPS? So basically, what the game is. So don't make it too simplistic. Like, you just don't want to be this is going to be an FPS, because that's going to be boring. You want to add some interesting things to it, especially if you're an indie game developer. You really want to add some some uniqueness to your game. And don't make it overcomplicated, or people won't actually understand anything about your game. For example, you don't want it to be like you have a gun that you can do telekinesis to it, and you have to shoot um, only the red people that have a backpack that contains bomb. I don't know. You can make things really complicated, and then your game just simply isn't fun. Next, you have to choose your game platform. Is it going to be a PC game? Is it going to be on the web? Or is it going to be downloadable? If it's going to be an Xbox, or is it going to be on PS3? There's really loads of them you can find out there. There's also iOS now and Android. It really changes a lot about your game because, especially graphics-wise and performance-wise. And but bear in mind, you can still change it if you feel like you didn't choose the right platform for your game, but you really want to decide on it pretty early in development. Next, the development program. So there are loads of them out there. For example, there's Unity, which is a really good uh, 3D engine. I made videos on those, by the way, so you might want to check that out. There's UDK, which is a FPS engine. You can make loads of different games, but it's really designed to make FPS. It made the Unreal Tournament, by the way, and it's free as well. You can just pure code it with Java, C++. It tends to be a bit harder, but you get really good results from it. You also have GameMaker, one of my personal favorite, which is good for making 2D games, but not so great for 3D games. But there's really anything you like. You'd even use Scratch if you wanted to, even though I don't really recommend it because of its limitations. So, remember, you need to note all of this down in your notepad early on, and make sure you know exactly what you're going to do before you enter the production stage. This is where you start programming, graphics, everything. Some people think it's tedious and like making ideas. Some people just think it's really fun. They really like making engine, for example. But before you do any of that, you need to make your concept art. Now this you do once you actually did all of your previous stuff. So you have to make a lot of it. You have to draw every single level designs, every single like characters, guns, everything you can think about. Obviously, it's not going to be all the final stuff, but you'll take ideas from it and implement them into your game once you've started making the engine, etc. So, about the engine, you need to make this first, obviously. It still applies if you're going to be using something like Unity or UDK, as you want to add all the code that's specific to your game. If you don't add it in at the beginning, you might have problems when actually starting making your games. You really want to add the basic scripts of your mechanics first. But this is really important if you're going to be using Java, for example. You really want to add your JFrames, you really want to add your graphics or your different sprite importing, because this is not done automatically by Java, so you really want to add this in yourself at the beginning. And don't hard code, just use variables or you have problems. For example, if you're planning on making a chess game, you might set the value 8 for the number of rows and number of columns on the checkerboard. And so you might put 8 everywhere, thinking that it's going to be 8, you're never going to change it because that's how chess works. But you might want to add, for example, a game of checkers instead, as well as the game of chess. And rather than recoding your whole board, you could just change the number of rows and number of columns. And this way, you won't have to recode everything, every single part of your game. So just add as many things as possible, think about everything, make it really flexible so that you can change loads and loads of parts of your games to make it as interesting as possible, and then you can start making your game. So add your players, the different mechanics of your game, use placeholder graphics so you don't waste your time. That's really important. Some people tend to first make graphics, then make the game, and realize half of the graphics they made aren't even usable. And don't add levels, just make one big scenery with loads, all of the stuff you made just to test it out. Next, you can only add levels and stories once you're done. You might want to add the storyline and then the level, or the other way around. It really depends on what your game is. for the levels, if you are going to have some, make sure you make a level editor. This really helps. Not really useful if you use Unity because it has its built-in level editor, but if you're going to be using Java, you don't really want to have to hard code every single value in, as it can be a little tedious. And before you make your levels, you want to draw them out on a notepad, so that you don't have to recode everything, or if you are going to code it, or if you have a problem. Because say you want to place the crate where there was previously the player, or you want to move the player a bit, you can just redraw it on the notepad, just cross it out rather than having to implement it all on the computer. You also want to add your graphics only now, once you're done with all that. Make sure you still in the feel of the game. If you change now, it's not going to feel right and people won't like your game. You want to make sure all the graphics are of the same style. You can't just take stuff from the internet and hope it will fit in together, unless it's made by the same guy. So make sure you choose well on that. Now you can enter the post-production stage. This is when you're done with your game, so that's pretty cool. But you shouldn't forget this, as it's pretty important unless you're just making a quick project. So first of all, you need to do some debugging. So just take out all the bugs of your game, all the ones you can find. You might want to ask a friend to play your game just to make sure if he finds any bugs. And don't patch your code. That's really important. Don't just say, oh, there are a few pixels missing on the right of the screen, I'm just going to add 5. No, don't do this. Instead, add a variable. This way, you won't have problems when using different screen sizes later on, because then you can play your game. If you like it, people will like it, because, well, there's no reason why you wouldn't enjoy something that other people wouldn't, unless you are rather different to other people. And I went too far here. Next, you want to polish your game. This might take a long time. You just want to take out all the typos, make you better dialogues, make your levels more interesting. You might even want to add levels if you have a level-based game, and really want to make it look professional. Then you can release it. There's the stream green light is available. You can make your own website. If it's a Flash game, you can put it on Flash websites like Armor Games and Crazy Monkey Games. You can even get them sponsored, and you can get money from that. Obviously, your game might not be good enough to go on Steam or Flash. This is when your own website comes in, or a bunch of other easy to submit game websites. So now, to make your game fun, you might want to include some of the following. So you might want to add achievements. They're quite easy to implement, and they really add to the replayability. You have your character customization. It's not too hard to add if you made your engine good, and it really makes your game look a lot more professional and a lot more fun. You can add high scores and multiplayer. If you're going to make an FPS, if you don't have multiplayer, your game isn't going to be the funnest out there. And finally, make sure to really take your time when making your games. If you don't, it will really feel rushed. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was useful. Please hit like and subscribe if it was, and please tell me if you want me to make other videos like this, or if you have any special requests, or if you have questions on how to develop games. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys for some more gaming related videos.